You've maybe heard the term shadow work floating around, and if you're wondering what it means and how you can use it to release heavy emotions in your life and get you closer to your manifestations, I'm going to share that with you right in this video. As always, I'm going to be sharing with you the spiritual side as well as the scientific side so you know what happens to your body, mind, and soul when you work with shadow work. If you're new, hi, my name is Kendra and I'm your no BS spiritual baddie best friend, and I share information about the moon, shadow work, as well as manifestation. And if you're returning, already subscribing, part of the hive, welcome back my kings, queens, and in-between bees. I'm so happy that you're here. So, what is shadow work? Shadow work is the process of acknowledging and releasing limiting thoughts and behavior patterns you have in your life so that you can feel more calm in stressful situations and get closer to your manifestations. Shadow work helps you create new neural pathways in your brain by taking your unwanted, unhealthy reactions, turning them into healthy responses, which over time will turn into your new automatic healthy reactions. Diving deep to find out why you're experiencing these emotions will allow you to turn off the fuel to the fires instead of continually trying to fight all of these fires that A, you don't really have any control over anyways, and B, are probably just going to reignite as soon as you turn your back. What is your shadow self? Like we have our higher self as our guide, we have our shadow self as our protector. And over time, and as we experience life and go through our traumas, our shadow self comes up with what I call protection mode. And maybe protection mode helped you during that time. However, maybe you're finding that it's not aligning with your current vibration and the goals that you want to achieve. And it's through shadow work that you're able to acknowledge these limiting thoughts and behavior patterns so you can work on releasing them, which allows you to have more space for those manifestations. We're not trying to eliminate your shadow self. Protection mode is definitely useful in other circumstances. We are just trying to gain more control over when we go into protection mode and what our responses are while we're there. The first step is acknowledgement. Once you're able to acknowledge that these emotions are happening, you're able to dive deep, try to figure out why, so you can work on new action plans on how you would like to respond instead. And you can double down on your success with this by adding a self-care reward to the end, which will release dopamine and serotonin in your brain. And dopamine and serotonin are reward and motivation neurotransmitters, and they tell your brain that this is a preferable activity and that you should probably do it again. For example, say when you get home there's dishes in the sink and you get angry and that makes you yell, and this is something you'd like to work on. The first step would be to acknowledge this anger. The second step would be to try and find gratitude in the situation. You have dishes in your sink, which means you have food in your house, and there are a lot of people on this planet that can't say the same thing. Remind yourself that there's something to be grateful for in almost every situation. And if you're struggling with that, that's okay. You can at least be grateful that those situations brought you to this moment today. And I can tell you that there are people on this planet that are wishing for one more day, one more moment, one more breath. Practicing gratitude also releases dopamine and serotonin, which puts you in a more solution-based mindset, versus the opposite, which is cortisol, which puts you into fight or flight. The third step would be to dive deep and try and figure out why you're actually yelling, the fuel to the fire. Is it actually because there's dishes in the sink, or is it because you're not eating breakfast in the morning, so you're having trouble with emotional regulation all day and you come home and you're full of cortisol? Or maybe your parents yelled at you when you were a kid as well, so it's like generational trauma. Diving deep to find out why not only gives you more empathy and compassion for yourself, but more empathy and compassion for other people. And not only realizing that your parents yelled at you and that's why you're yelling, maybe you'll realize that their parents yelled at them too. And finding the why might not always be possible in the moment, and that's okay. You might not ever find it. However, taking note of it tells your subconscious and conscious mind that this is something you'd like to work on. And the answer might appear when you least expect it. Again, usually at a family occasion. The fourth step would be to note your current unhealthy reaction. So in this circumstance, it would be yelling. The fifth step would be to think about how would you like to respond instead. So instead of yelling, maybe you go take the dog for a walk. The sixth step, to double down, would be to insinuate a self-care reward or something that releases dopamine and serotonin. So maybe when you take the dog for a walk, you go get ice cream as well. Not only are you going to feel good practicing gratitude about the situation, choosing your healthy response feels good, and then insinuating that self-care reward really builds that strong neural pathway to a healthier response, which over time becomes a healthy reaction. Responses are thoughtful and reactions are automatic. And you can have unhealthy responses and reactions and healthy responses and reactions. This process is a cognitive behavioral therapy technique, and it can be used in almost any circumstance or for any shadow. Choosing your healthy response allows you to have more control over your mindset in stressful situations, and it keeps you out of fight or flight mode. Remember, we have only control over mindsets, not anything. Remember, we only have control over our mindsets, not anything else around us. And it's actually this thought that brings you more calm into your life. You don't have to fight all of these fires that are happening around you. You just have to locate the fuel and work on that. In the example I gave, the fires or the triggers would be the dishes in the sink, which would insinuate the reaction of yelling. The fuel to that would be maybe your parents yelled at you, or again, lack of emotional regulation during the whole day. And you might realize that looking for the fuel to the fire and working on that first puts out a lot of those fires, so it makes this a lot less work. People ask me all the time, why do I have to heal this? And I honestly don't know the answer to that, but I tell myself that it ran in the family until it ran into me. And I know I want my family and my loved ones and my potential children to experience a different kind of energy, and it's up to me to create that. So that's what I'm gonna do. Shadow work can be tough, and this is why I always recommend that you set up a support system before you get started. I never want you to feel worse when you do something that I teach you than when you began. So make sure you have a support system, and make sure before you do any shadow work session that you're choosing a self-care reward to do afterwards to bring back that dopamine and serotonin in case it got a little stressy. Your support system should contain unbiased opinions like therapists, counselors, psychiatrists, as well as emotional support people and emergency services that you can reach at all hours of the day. It's also really important that you communicate with your support system ahead of time and ask them if they have the capacity to help you out. Remember, consent to vent, consent to vent. Make sure you're also setting out healthy boundaries ahead of time. How would they like you to ask for help, when and where, etc. If you'd like a more detailed description of how to get started, as well as some assignment sheets, make sure you check out my Shadow Work online course. I think I still have a few spots for the introductory rate. If not, the link and information about that is in the description box below. And if you have any questions about shadow work, make sure you drop them in the comments. I'd love to help you out. I can honestly say that shadow work has not only allowed me to be more confident in myself and the decisions that I make, it has allowed me to set stronger boundaries and stick to them. Releasing what's holding us back and what's limiting us allows us to get closer to our guide, our higher self, and in turn align with those manifestations that we're trying to achieve. So that's about gonna wrap it up for this video. And if you liked it, make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and make sure that you go ring that notification bell so you know when I'm posting a video. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a day as amazing as you. Love ya.